think he battled an ankle injury in spring of 23 and then a lower body, like leg injury. Cause college football is like hockey with the injury updates.
A&M for sure.
A&M's horrible.
A&M's like, lower body. The guy's like leg gets amputated like on the field. And they're like, yeah, he's day to day.
Or he stubbed his toe. You'll figure it out when you see him on the field.
Either they hacksawed his foot off or he just stubbed his pinky toe. It's one of the two. You never know.
Yeah, he's like Greg Jennings.
Gotta do this shit.
In that viral Madden video.
My leg broke. I don't know how the fuck I'm running right now, though.
Limping all the way to the end zone.
How is he running with a broken leg? I'll do this shit for Madden. You Gumby?
Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I am Trevor Sikkema. The man with the incredible mustache over there is Connor Rogers. Here on Wide Receiver Monday, baby. It's a summer scouting series, and it's time for truly everybody's favorite position. I feel like I kind of say that to intro every show, but Connor, this is actually everybody's favorite position. We all got takes on wide receivers. We all watch, whether it's wide receiver 3, 2, 1, whether they're going to league, whether they're just a college star. We love them. We want to talk about them, and we're going to talk about a lot of them here on this show. We did, top 5 running backs, sort of top 10. We did like top 10. 8. Yeah. You're right. Quarterbacks, we did top 10 because we wanted to talk about them a lot. Wide receivers, top 15, baby. You knew we had to expand it a little bit, but you guys know the drill. Connor's got some guys that I didn't watch. I got some guys that he didn't watch. So we'll easily top 20 guys, in this class that we're going to talk about here on this wide receiver episode. Connor, how you doing, my friend?
I'm great, man. The first person to call my mustache incredible. So that's what I really, really appreciate you. It's definitely not what
you're a bold man getting married, and then immediately the second the ink is dry on that marriage license, boom, mustache.
It's kind of the opposite of bold. It's kind of the cowardly way of like, well, you're in it now, so you can absolutely hate it. And spoiler alert, she does. Despises it.
This is great for the audio only people because the audio only people are gonna be like, God, now I got to go to the
YouTube and see how pathetic this is.
While you're there, folks, smash subscribe. Just saying.
Hit like, leave a comment below,
trigger those bells.
Yep, there you go. I'm doing great. This is obviously, I would call it the biggest beast of all of our summer scouting groups every year. I mean, the volume of wide receivers, the talent at the position, and the fact that, like you said, there's just so many different takes and opinions, and it's usually the headliner, it feels like, because of the plethora of talent in it each year. And spoiler alert, folks, no different this year. A really, really fun group. A lot of different types of players. And I think we had to do 15. And listen, I'll still get owned online. I'll rip off my 15 and somebody will be like, you didn't watch this guy? Fraud. And I get it.
What do you mean online? I'm going to say that to you in like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Online, on virtual video recording, in real life, out in the streets. So like, you didn't watch blah, blah, blah. Fraud. And
look, but that's why, like, this episode is obviously a lot of fun. And this is the most fun that I think summer scouting gets when it comes to like the comment section. Because there's a lot of people who, like I said, all joking aside, have a lot of really great kind of like opinions and insight of these wide receivers. Maybe it's a school that you're a fan of and you've watched this player since they were a recruit and how much they've gotten better. And there's always great background information on these players. And like, last year for the wide receiver class, we had Marvin Harrison Jr., who we've all been waiting for forever. And then, a lot of people really loved Rome Odunze. Somebody pointed out in the comment section from last week's video, I had Rome Odunze, I think like wide receiver 8 going into the year last year. And I will defend myself and say, hey, he does a lot of things really well. I just want to see him get better at contested catches.
Massive leap.
And he did. He got better at contested catches. So I elevated him quite a bit. But anyways, there are so many wide receivers that we're going to love in this class. There's not like a Marvin Harrison going into it.
Right.
But I can tell you guys, you're going to have a lot of fun on this episode, learn a lot of these names, because there are some great, even underclassmen who are eligible for the first time that we're going to introduce to you here on this episode. Connor, you want to kick us off here? You want to go 15 through 11? We'll do kind of the same thing. We'll chat about it a little bit. We'll go back and forth, and then I'll give my 15 through 11.
I think that's the right way to do it. I'll kick us off here. And listen, folks, buckle up. There's going to be names that, I don't know, surprise you. You don't know, you do know, you're pleasantly surprised. Let's get right into it. The first of two Maryland receivers is at, actually, I'm reading off of, reading a little too far down the list. I already screwed up. I was about to read wide receiver 20. So we'll do the little thing at the end.
I didn't even watch the Maryland guys, whoever you were about to bring to the table.
No, so only one is going to be on the top 15. Sorry to the other one. I'll drop his name at the end of the show, or I'll probably just forget to do that in total. 15. He's transferring from Houston to Miami. That is Sam Brown, a big-bodied wide receiver. 14. Jaden Higgins, another big target, breakout year out of Iowa State. A really exciting year for Jaden Higgins. 13 is Brew McCoy, who will be 25 before his NFL rookie season. So Brew McCoy's been around in college.
In the 2018 class?
Sounds right.
I think.
Yeah. I know he turns 24 this month. He's, USC, Texas, back to USC. Obviously, he's actually played for Tennessee. So Brew McCoy will be an interesting combo.
2019 class, but he was the number one overall athlete in the 2019 class.
Yep. So Brew McCoy comes in at 13 for me. 12 is Trey Harris, who is a very popular name. Trey Harris, who is from out of Ole Miss, but a little bit of a surprise when he went back to school last year. So I think a lot of people are familiar with Trey Harris. He comes in at 12. And then 11 is the other Maryland wide receiver, my top Maryland wide receiver. That's Caden Prather, their big-bodied target out of Maryland. He comes in at 11.
Man, I'm sleeping on the Maryland guys. I didn't watch either of those Maryland players. And honestly, this is kind of cool for the podcast because we each get to individually talk about a lot of these guys. I only watched one player on your 15 through 11. It was Trey Harris. So we'll get to Trey Harris because, funny enough, I also have him 12, so the same exact spot.
That is funny. And you know Brew McCoy really well, though. So
I do. You're right.
That.
I didn't rank Brew just because I didn't have a chance to go back and watch him, but I ranked him a little bit last year, kind of for his film of the last couple of seasons. But talk to me about whoever you really want to. Dealer's choice. 15 through 11. If you want to talk about the Maryland guys, that would be the first time that I'm kind of getting an introduction to them. So if you want to give like a little Spark Notes version of them, I think that'd be great. But whoever you want to talk about in that list, let's hear about it.
Well, I think number one, 15 to 11 here, they're all pretty big wide receivers, honestly, which we've gone through drafts lately of just so many small slot wide receivers, gadget players. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there was a change with a lot of this class where these guys are big perimeter targets. I mean, I'll work my way back. So we'll start with Caden Prather at 11 from Maryland. He's somebody to me that's really interesting because you see all the physical ability there with him. He transferred from West Virginia to Maryland. He's a senior. He's about 6'4", 211 pounds. He's got the height. He's got the mass. He plays on the outside. He's got those vertical strides that cover a lot of ground. They stress the coverage. He's very competitive in contested situations. I wrote down plus ball skills, really finds a way to make plays on the football that, whether it's off-target throws or lofted throws, or he can really just kind of out-talent the coverage at times. The nuances of the game, selling routes, working back to his quarterback, like not drifting and fading down the field, but more so towards the quarterback, maximizing that frame as a shield. It needs to significantly improve on all of those things. And it just shows you how physically talented that I had him at 11.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was kind of the story with a lot of these guys. It was kind of hard to separate them, Trevor. Like Jaden Higgins on this list at 14 compared to Caden Prather at 11. I would have the same actual grade on them. And it's the same story for a lot of them. Higgins was one of the last guys I watched, and I was wildly impressed. I mean, I have him 6'3" 3/4, 212 pounds. They play him inside and outside, so a little bit different usage for Higgins, where he's that big wide receiver, but they'll throw him in the slot. I thought he was shiftier than you'd expect after the catch, considering the size. Legit red zone threat with ball skills. Well built. I mean, 53 catches, 983 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year. Had some big games against good competition. So this group as a whole, they are big-bodied wide receivers that can go up and help their quarterback. I think there's a consistent theme that a lot of them almost find themselves in traffic a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice the guys I have ahead of them I thought were either more dominant in that aspect or were just better separators. So I'm really interested to watch this group of Prather, Harris, McCoy, Higgins and Sam Brown, how they try to differentiate themselves this year, because physically they are all really, really well built outside wide receivers.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way about McCoy when I watched him last year. And I'll say that as I went through this list, there were quite a bit of receivers where they were relying too much on being contested catch guys. Like
Living in it.
Right. I really wanted them to be more than that. And I don't really know what the deal of that is. Like, I don't know if this is just a isolated sort of recruiting class or wide receiver class kind of a thing, or man, I wonder if, the evolution of popularity of like the 7-on-7 camps and things like that, where a lot of times you're sort of trying to out athlete these guys. And, if you're bigger and taller, sometimes you're in these camps and you just say to the quarterback, like, hey, I'm here to impress people. Just throw the ball up to me. Like, I'm not really focused on like winning a different way or like trying to get better in this.
Like a rebound drill. Like
basically, yeah. And I wonder if you're kind of getting to college like that.
That way.
And I'm not saying that like these guys aren't trying to improve. It's just, there were more guys in this class, and we'll get to some of the other ones, especially when we start to get in our top 10, where you look at a player's strength and they very clearly just run their game through that strength, which is fine. Like you don't want to do square peg in a round hole, if you will. You want to, half of scouting is seeing what a guy does well and putting them in position to do that. But I felt as that the drop off between what they do well and then what they don't was steeper this year, and like separation versus settling for contested catches was kind of a area where I continued to notice that for some of these guys.
Well, I think that's the perfect conversation for us to have mutually about Trey Harris, right? Because I feel like some people listening might be really surprised to hear Trey Harris at 12 for both of us. Right. He almost had 1,000 yards last year. He catches 8 touchdowns. I started watching him and I was like, and he's 6'1", 5'8", 212 pounds. And I started watching him and I was like, damn, like Trey Harris has ball skills. He is physically imposing, and it was one of his better games. And then when I just kept watching him, I started to realize he was just living in coverage, where he's great at positioning himself for the football. He has no fear of going to the dirty areas of the field and getting hit. He'll run right through you after the catch. He's got 18 touchdowns over the last 2 years, but he's a little slow getting into his routes off the line of scrimmage. Yep. He body catches at times, even though I think he has strong hands. And he's constantly living in coverage where he's just better than a lot of the guys, so he makes plays. But when you go to the NFL, that's why these guys fail or don't meet expectations that are a little unfair. So I thought he was a big example of that. And I'll kind of go back to like Jaden Higgins. Yes, I have him at 14, but why I'm excited about him is I thought he moved. It wasn't always clean separation, but there was signs of movement skills from him where I was like, oh, maybe he's the guy a little bit in the back of the pack, but I could see a big year from him. And maybe it's because they do move him around more than the other guys. He gets the slot reps as well. Mm-hmm. But I like the movement skills for sure. And then McCoy fractured his ankle last year at the end of September. I think he had 4 surgeries on it. So when you're watching the tape, you're looking at a lot of 2022, which is the tape you watched last year. Right. So we just got to see how McCoy comes back. Older prospect, serious injury history, but physically gifted, tough, hard-nosed blocker, hard-nosed runner. But yeah, it's just, you just don't know. I mean, that's a serious, serious injury for an older prospect.
Yeah, and it sucks, right? Because his recruiting profile, this is Brew McCoy, who is it? Where is he now? I don't even.
He's at Tennessee still. He did go back, but he has been at 3 different colleges.
Yeah, and it sucks because he's just he's, like I said, he was former number 1 overall athlete in that 2019 class. He was a top 10 recruit overall. I mean, his frame is incredible. I mean, he's 6'2", 6'3", like 215, 220 pounds. I mean, this dude's massive. But my summer scouting notes from last year on McCoy, which is basically all we have for him. McCoy's athletic potential is very high. His physical gifts are still what make him alluring, but he hasn't really honed in on the nuances of playing the position. His routes and his separation are very inconsistent. And I had in a note here with Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt gone, he could be in for a big jump in production in 2023. Obviously he gets hurt, so we don't really get to see that. So that kind of sucks, but obviously he's somebody that anytime you have that athletic potential in your background, you got to pay attention. You mentioned Trey Harris, and I do want to talk about him a little bit more because I do think there's going to be a lot of people who are fans of his. So
Yeah.
Trey Harris, he's at Ole Miss. He's a senior now. He was a 2-star athlete coming out of the 2020 recruiting class, played both football and basketball when he was in high school. When he was playing high school football, he actually mostly played quarterback. I think just because he was the biggest, fastest, strongest athlete that he was on the field. So he committed to Louisiana Tech as a 2-star athlete to play receiver. Ended up playing at Louisiana Tech for a little bit, transferred over to Ole Miss. You saw the production from him last year. But I agree with you. I think a lot of people really love Trey Harris. And I remember watching Trey Harris because he was draft eligible last year.
Yeah, I thought he'd be like the Senior Bowl. I was getting ready for him to be a Senior Bowl guy.
And I watched him, and I'm like, there's obviously some things that he does well. He's a nice, bigger athlete, but the nuances of playing the position, creating that separation, the route running, getting out of his releases, like that stuff still needs a lot of work for Trey Harris to be able to succeed at the NFL level. The way that he plays right now, Connor, I watched 4 more games of him for this exercise this summer. And I'm like, he's a tight end to me, right. And he's not big enough to be a tight end. So you can't make that position switch. He doesn't weigh enough. He's like 205, 210, and he's like 6'2". So you can't really switch him there. You kind of have to keep him as a wide receiver, but how he plays is more of a tight end. The player comp that I actually came up with for him is Jalen Strong from Arizona State. You remember Jalen?
Oh, yeah.
Good athlete, explosive player, but lived in contested catches. And he Jalen Strong did not improve how he created separation at the NFL level. He lived off of contested catches when he was at Arizona State, and he continued to try to do that at the NFL level. And like we've said before on this podcast, there are guys out there that can do it. A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, to name a few, like those guys could live in contested catch worlds.
They're the outliers.
That's about it. Like
they're the outliers.
There's just not a lot of names. So I thought of Jalen Strong. He's my kind of early comp for Trey Harris. But yeah, man, I mean, you look at the PFF numbers, separation percentile versus single coverage, Connor. 0th percentile.
Oh, man. Yeah.
0. 28.6% of the routes that he was running versus single coverage, he created separation. He got open. That's just not good enough. So he's got to be more nuanced. I think that there's some athletic potential there. I know a lot of people really like Trey Harris. We'll see what he's able to do this year, but that was my thought of him too.
What do you got for 15 through 11?
Okay, so 15 for me, number 15, Theo Weiss Jr., the other wide receiver from Missouri who plays alongside Luther Burden III, who, of course, we are going to get to later in this podcast. Number 14, Deion Burks, the now junior wide receiver from Oklahoma. I played the last 2 years at Purdue. So now he's transferring over to Oklahoma. We'll see what he can be there. Tez Johnson from Oregon, the small receiver who packs a big game. I'll say the pun there. I'll be cheesy. He's now a senior this year. He played at Troy for 2 seasons, played at Oregon this past year, and now he is a senior this year. He's only listed at 5'10", 160 pounds. So if we wanted to get into Tez Johnson, I don't know if you watched him, but we could do that. Trey Harris.
I did, yeah.
Trey Harris, he's number 12 for me. And then number 11 is from UCLA. He was at Cal. Now he's at UCLA. We actually talked about him for last year's summer scouting. J. Michael Sturdivant, the wide receiver there, who I still think has a lot of potential, man. I still think that he is going under the radar and what he brings to the table. But yeah, he just needs some more nuance in his game. Connor, you want to start with Tez, or where do you want to go with those names there?
I think we'll get to Tez when it flips back to me, because he's going to kick off my next tier.
Okay.
I'm curious to hear about the guys that I didn't get to watch, and there was a handful of them. And Burks was specifically someone that I was disappointed I ran out of time. I watched 20 wide receivers. He would have been the next guy I watched. I didn't get to see enough of him. So tell me about Deion Burks, because we talk about the conversation, small wide receivers, but It feels like he has some playmaking ability.
Right, and I think he does. He's 14 for me. He's good. Like I said, he's going to be a junior this year. He's playing at Oklahoma this year. 5'9". All right. So he's smaller, 190 pounds. So, it's
pretty thick.
it's at least a bigger build for a 5'9" guy. He's a former 3-star wide receiver, also ran track in high school. You could definitely see that in his in how he plays the game. He actually played 3 seasons at Purdue, so he must be a senior this year. I must have that wrong in my sheet. He started all 12 games of 2023. Now he transfers over to Oklahoma to hopefully get some more production in there with that Sooners offense. Really high athleticism scores. Yeah, I've sort of teased it to you guys that PFFers introducing what Sam Monson has fought for to change the title of it to GAS, which is like game athleticism score. I think it's very simple in that regard. We just call it the athletic score that we have over at PFF. And Burks, high 90th percentile in I think the last 2 years. So this is a guy who is a really good athlete, very quick footwork, as you would want to see from a guy who is 5'9", slot receiver type of a player. But the thing that I like about Burks is he's got a small catch radius. He maximizes it all the time. Like hands are out and extended. You know, sometimes you get these smaller guys that they're trying to shield everything because they don't necessarily trust that they've got enough strength in their hands or their forearms to really be able to corral the ball throughout all sorts of contact. So sometimes they'll shield it, they'll let it get into their body, and that's when a lot of like drops happen because you got to time it very well. Because if not, then it's going to bounce off of your shoulder pads or off of your stomach, and you're going to miss it. So he's somebody who continues to attack the ball with full extension there. The issues with Burks, he is somebody who struggles to get off press coverage. So they put him in the slot. They'll use him as a flanker. They don't really want him on the line of scrimmage to go up against slot. The lack of weight definitely hinders sort of catch point strength, as I mentioned. That smaller catch radius definitely shows up. But he can win with his quickness, man. I have this in my little Spark Notes version for him. He embraces the strengths that come with his size, mainly that phone booth quickness, where he's trying to get off the line of scrimmage with really quick footwork, really good releases. He's got decent separation score, 68th percentile for regular separation score, 64th percentile for separation versus single coverage. So he definitely has that going for him. And I think he believes that separation starts at the release point, which is very true. And I like wide receivers that can think of that. The big issue with him for me is he was not nearly as elusive after the catch as you figured a 5'9", 190-pound speedster would be. 31st percentile in yards after catch per reception. And that, I thought that number would be way higher for him. So at the end of his little summary I have, if he can become more of an elusive player after the catch, I think he's got the speed to crack a starting slot role at some point in the NFL. But right now, he feels just like a smaller vertical threat type of a player, reminding me a little bit of a Mecole Hardman in that role that you could kind of see that sort of shorter speed when you're attacking vertically deep down the field. So that was Young Burks for me.
And then Sturdivant's interesting to me. Another guy I didn't get to watch this summer, but had a big 2022 and has some length, and I feel like has some juice. What did you see of him as, I don't want to say the production went down because, yes, the numbers went down, but he was averaging 5 more yards per catch in 2023.
Dude, he's got more than just some juice, okay? UCLA's got him listed at 6'3", 205 pounds, so maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit closer to 6'2.5", 6'2", but whatever. He has good size in terms of height and weight. Connor, this dude ran a 10.39 100-meter dash in high school. It's more than just a little bit of juice. This dude's got the whole orange, man. I mean, his athleticism is awesome. He was a former 4-star wide receiver. He spent the first 2 years at Cal. He spent last year at UCLA. Now he is I believe redshirt junior is technically what he is classified as going into this year. But he is, I can't quit this guy because of that athleticism to him. He's not just a vertical threat player, and we'll get to one guy in particular who is better as a vertical threat player, but he's just not quite the explosive route runner. Sturdivant is an athlete, an explosive athlete, I should say, in every sense of it. It's not just when he's opening up and running a 9 route. I will watch him run slant routes where he is putting on a little diamond release or just even chopping his feet. And then boom, when that leg hits the ground and he is moving inside, he explodes. Or when he knows he is getting vertical, that first step outside of his stance rarely has a false step to him. It is right off of that front foot, and he is even with those guys immediately, especially if it's press coverage. He knows how to get off it. He knows how to get behind these guys. So even if he is just a vertical type of receiver. Really good size, really nice strength, and really good speed to kind of wrap that all up with a bow. The issues with him and why I don't have him a little bit higher, which I would love to do on this list, is he's just not the route runner I want him to be. He's not nearly as creative after the catch that his speed makes you believe that he can be. A little bit like Burks in that regard, like I just talked about. So this is a player that's going to be really hard for me to quit because of the type of overall, all-around explosive athlete that can really attack every single level of the field. His stuff kind of reminded me of Chris Chambers, Miami Dolphins great.
Wow. Throwback.
Dude, Chambers was big. He had some muscle on him, and he could get behind you quick. I mean, he had a really good combine. This is a guy who could really stretch the field. And Sturdivant reminds me of that. He just needs more route refinement to ever really become, to me, the wide receiver 2 that he has the potential to be. So I hope we get that from him this year. But the nuances of the game really need to catch up to just how athletic this dude is.
Before we move to 10 to 6, because I don't want to get away from this group. Was there anyone else that you really wanted to break down?
Mind
you, folks, we're going to be doing this podcast the entire draft year.
We'll get to Tez, obviously.
Yes, we will have the Tez combo for sure.
Theo Weiss Jr., I'll just really quick. I mean, he was a former 4-star, 5-star wide receiver. He played at Oklahoma for, I believe, 4 seasons before transferring over to Missouri last year. He still had another year of eligibility, so he went back, and I believe this is his like super senior 6th season. You love how this guy approaches the game. Very high IQ player, understands no false steps out of the releases, a diverse release package, knows how to set guys up, understands how to attack different leverages, whether a guy's playing off or whether he's playing press. He knows how to kind of fool guys with his eyes, with his shoulders, where really he's going one way, or it looks like he's going one way and instead he's going the other. Very sound blocker to him. The issue with him, he's just not a great athlete. I think he's a below average athlete in a lot of different areas, and there's only so much. Actually, so I got Theo Weiss at 15. I have Will Shepard from Vanderbilt, who is now at Colorado. I have him right below him at number 16. They're sort of the same conversation. They're these guys who are really technically sound, really fundamentally sound. They'll give you some nice routes, some nice catches, some nice reps. But when you put those guys on an NFL field and the athleticism takes a whole nother step up, I feel as though those guys really struggle to separate now. It's only going to get worse at the NFL level, even for how technically refined they are. So just wanted to shout him out because he's somebody who gets a lot of production in that Missouri offense. So I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on him.
All right, so this is an easy transition because 10 for me was Tez Johnson. I believe he's 11 for you?
He's 13 for me.
13 for you.
13, yeah.
Okay, so I'll do my full 10 to 6 after we have that combo. But 10 for me was Tez Johnson, 13 for you. This one, I think, will surprise people because of this year statistically that he had and the speed that he has. But one, I mean, there's a lot of other players in this class, and we're going to get to some really, really impressive ones for sure. For me, Trevor, and he was pretty early out of the guys I watched. Let me get to him. So 5'10", 160. I would imagine he's not 5'10".
Connor, 160.
160. I mean, you're looking like a Tank Dell profile here. Which
0th percentile.
Which are Rondell Moore.
0.
Like, yeah. Size is...
Dude, even Tank Dell was bigger than him, right?
Maybe. Tank might have been taller.
Brother. Tank weighed in at 165.
Whoa, bulked up for the combine.
Tank was...
Put on the rain boots.
He had a little Caesar's hot and ready the morning of, baby.
You love to see it. Creatine and a little Caesars and rain boots. 165, baby.
Rain boots.
Oh, man. Tez Johnson, he's in that profile of being really slender. Yeah. There's just no way around it. Like you see it when you turn on the tape. Now, with that comes the fact that he's got legit vertical wheels to stretch the field. I mean, you see it right away. He is a field stretcher. Against single coverage, Trevor, in 2023, he ate it up. I mean, caught 22 of his 31 targets, 427 yards, over 19 yards per catch against single coverage, 6 touchdowns, very sharp cuts with the ball in his hands. But when you get to and by the way, I talked about the statistical production. I mean, 86 catches, that's a school record in a single season at Oregon, 1,182 yards, 10 touchdowns. Very slender build, limited catch radius really hurt his ability to adjust to the football. Right. There's times where, like, if Bo Nix just didn't put it on him and he had to move his body or his upper body in some kind of way, it's a good chance he just wasn't going to be able to grab it. And he's probably a slot only, 443 slot snaps last year, 33 out wide. I just don't know if he'd be able to really get off press playing on the outside. I don't see it. That's why I had him at 10 and not in the top 5.
Yeah.
And he ran this is the case for a lot of these guys, but a pretty simplified route tree. It's a screen, slant, and go for him. And when you're probably slot only, an outlier in weight, not overly impressive in terms of adjustments to the ball, you're probably closer to a one-trick pony of an undersized vertical threat. And hey, that trick is, you're going to be an NFL player. I'm not saying Tez Johnson's not an NFL prospect, but I think I kind of went into this when I saw that eye-popping production in this offense and thought, oh man, Tez Johnson, is he going to challenge to be a top 5 wide receiver in a pretty good class? And I came away with that. He's kind of just right on the fringe there at 10.
Yeah. Did he play special teams? Is he a returner?
Let me double check.
Because to me, that becomes a huge issue, right? Because if you are not Tank Dell, you're not making a roster, right? Because if you are going to be, that's the challenge for these smaller wide receivers is, yes, you can point to some who have worked out. Again, like Tank is certainly the
punt
one
returner.
Okay, so he was a punt returner. So
punt
like
returner.
So that's you basically have to have that, because to me, Tez Johnson's size alone tells me that you're starting at best wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5.
Well, unless you're just like totally different on film, like just different. Like,
yeah.
Like Jalen Waddle was once upon a time small. Yeah, not this small though.
No, I agree with you. Jalen Waddle measured in smaller than I thought that he was going to, because he was he like 170s?
His combine, he was 5'9.5", 180.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, like he was 180, which is a whole 20 pounds. So yeah, I didn't see that much of a difference making player at 160 to say like, okay, this guy's wide receiver 2 on my NFL team.
Exactly.
And if he's not, again, I'm just saying it becomes harder, because if you go, okay, well, he's wide receiver 4 or 5 for me, wide receiver 4 or 5 has to play special teams. And he's not big enough to play special teams roles that are not either a kick returner or a punt returner.
Let me ask you something. I hate to cut you off, but this is a very, very current event conversation. Mm-hmm. Do you think we're entering a world where the average size of the kick returner is going to increase? Because I do, with the new rules. I think there's just going to be way too much contact.
Yeah.
I think the days of like punt returner, which is, you got to be brave as hell to do that job no matter what. But I think the average size of the kick returner is about to get bigger with the change of the kickoff rule. I think they'll be running through more contact.
Kick returner, yes, I completely agree with you, because it's less about speed, it's less about straight line speed, and it's more about running back vision, or I should just say ball carrier vision. Right?
Yes.
So I agree with you completely, which again, it sort of makes this a little bit tougher for him. Now, I will say this, because this is any time we get the chance to kind of like highlight guys' background and things like that, I want to do it because we preach on this podcast all the time. These are people as much as they are players, right? That is what makes an NFL player. It is kind of like who you are, what makes you tick, your work ethic, your drive, like your inspiration. Like sometimes it really is that is the difference between seeing what you could be on film and actually achieving it and getting to those ceilings of these players that we talk about. Tez Johnson, incredibly inspiring story. I mean, if you go back to early childhood, I was reading a whole feature article on him. His father committed suicide when he was just an infant, when Tez was just an infant. His mother was raising multiple kids on her own. Mother didn't even graduate high school, but was always trying to do the best she could for her kids. Tez obviously being one of them. Was raised in what he described as a not good area of Birmingham, Alabama. And he talked about seeing shootings and killings and gang violence all throughout his childhood, saying that he saw way more than any kid ever should. And because of that, he was rolling with a lot of not great people, I think, throughout middle school and getting into high school. But then he found football, and he said football was kind of his area to let out his anger and to find that peace. And the interesting part of this story is he ended up going to the same high school and playing on the same football team as Bo Nix. And Bo Nix's father was the head coach of that football team. And there came a point where they did not legally adopt Tez, but Tez began to, have those extended sleepovers at their house. Honestly, felt like a little bit like the Blind Side type of a story. And they ended up helping Tez out, and they ended up helping his mother out. And his mother kind of gave blessing through this entire step of the way. She was like, hey, I want better for my son. And I realized that there are things that this family might be able to do for him that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. And so she's been involved in the story the whole time. And Tez always grew up watching Oregon, and now he actually got to play with Oregon with Bo after he went there. And so it's just his story. If you guys haven't looked it up, there's so many more details that are unbelievably inspiring that Tez has even gotten to this point. And so this is somebody that myself, I know Connor as well, like, you're rooting hard for this kid. Like, this is an awesome story, and he is going to be an NFL player. But evaluation wise, I think that he just has to be a little bit more precise in what he does, become an even better separator or a more consistent separator, which I think he was able to do quite a bit last year. Just pump it up another level, right? Without Bo Nix being there. Now you got Dillon Gabriel there. I think that Dillon's going to look his way quite early and often. He reminded me, from a smaller player that was feisty, he reminded me of Paul Richardson when Paul Richardson was coming out of
I like that.
Colorado, I believe, right? It was Colorado, I think. Played for the Seahawks, whatever it was. Paul Richardson.
Why was I thinking? But yeah, I think you're right. It was Colorado.
Is it Colorado? It's Colorado or Purdue or one of those schools that's the exact same Colorado. Like that. Okay, all right, all right. I know football. I kind of know some things, guys. But
watch the game.
That's why I've got him at number 13. I'm excited to watch him. I'm excited to root for him. That's who he reminded me of. But so you got him at 10 there.
Great call out on the story. And for Tez, I mean, he has played his way up to Oregon because he, had a lot of success at Troy.
Yeah, started at Troy, right?
And then transferred, what we like to call transfer up to Oregon. So not somebody anyone should be betting against. Okay, 10 through 6. I said 10, Tez Johnson from Oregon. 9, I think this one will catch you a little off guard, Trevor, and maybe a lot of people listening. Jalen Royals from Utah State.
Oh, I didn't watch him.
He's going to be like I don't want to say my sleeper. I'll get into it.
Utah State making the show.
Jalen Royals I guess, will be my favorite player to talk about for the surprise factor. 8, okay. Tory Horton from Colorado State, a guy that we thought would probably be in last year's draft. He goes back to school. 7, out of Stanford, Elic Ayomanor. Ayomanor.
Yep.
Big season last year after a lost 2022 to injury. And then 6, Evan Stewart, the transfer from Texas A&M to Oregon. So you can imagine what this Oregon passing offense is going to look like. The fact they have my 10th and 6th wide receiver, and their other receiver, Trayshawn Holden, is like a legitimate player. So yeah, Oregon's stupid loaded at wide receiver. We had the conversation about Tez. I guess I'll jump right into Jalen Royals from Utah State.
Yeah.
So he just has a little bit of this, where the hell did this guy come from feel.
I didn't even watch him. So
started at Georgia Military, ends up at
Georgia Military.
Started at Georgia Military.
We've had a handful of guys from Georgia Military over the last couple of years, right?
We have had quite a few. There was one year where it felt like we had a couple.
I think Byron Young was from there, right?
That sounds exactly right. The not Alabama Byron Young.
Yes, yeah, the Tennessee Byron Young.
Byron Young.
Yes.
Georgia
Military College. Yep,
right.
That's where he went.
Yeah, so Jalen Royals originally from there, at Utah State now, 5'11 and a half, 193. Last year, this guy just exploded for 71 catches, 1,080 yards, and 15 touchdowns. 15. He challenges all levels of the field with adequate acceleration, adequate speed, very smooth adjuster and tracker that catches the ball away from his body and over defenders. I just love watching this guy catch the football because he creates separation but he knows how to pluck the ball rather than catch the ball into his frame. And then you see that translate when he is in contested situations. So unlike the guys that are constantly living in contested situations, he does both, where he can kind of go into his back pocket and play a lot of different ways and knows how to catch the ball away from himself, that it keeps himself out of those really, really tough battles. He caught 18 of 27 contested catch chances last year and had 24 explosive plays, 15 plus yards. Consistently works back to the ball. He doesn't drift up the field. He works towards his quarterback. I loved what I saw from this guy. I think he's a pretty good athlete too, which is usually the question you ask yourself when you're looking at somebody playing against lower level competition or started at really low level of competition. I think he's a solid athlete. I just think he plays the position extremely, extremely well. And I would imagine he had some big time opportunities to transfer up. But he stays at Utah State coming off a monster year. So he's kind of my sleeper of this list before we get to some, I would call them very, very notable names in the college football world.
Dude, I just looked up some of his PFF numbers while you were talking. Separation percentage, 92nd percentile. Separation percentage versus single coverage, 94th percentile. That's nuts.
Yeah,
that's better than Lad McConkey.
Right.
I'm not saying like he's a better route runner than Lad McConkey. I haven't watched him, but like those scores are better than Lad's last year.
Right. Yeah. And some of it is, not always against the SEC competition, but some of it is. But to be fair to him, like a lot of it is just, hey, you're just really good. I mean, if he transferred up, I would bet on him again. He's a really good player. I love the way he moves. I think he does things so well at the position at all three phases. And that's, obviously in the route, at the catch point, and after the catch. And he just has a little bit of that like master of his craft feel.
I love
Jalen Royals. Really liked him. All right. So I'm kind of confused where we should go from here because I feel
why don't I
I think you should go 10 through 6 because we're this is where the pool gets really, really wide open.
Yeah. Really quick. Do 10 through 6 again for you. Just names.
So, Tez Johnson, Oregon. Jalen Royals, Utah State. Tory Horton, Colorado State. Elic Ayomanor from Stanford, Evan Stewart, who transferred from Texas A&M to Oregon.
Okay, so I have some of the same names. I got Tory Horton at 10 from Colorado State. I have Evan Stewart at 9. I have Isaiah Bond at 8 from Alabama. Now he is at Texas. I have Juice Wells, who I cannot quit.
Clearly, he didn't even need to play last year.
Dude, okay, here's the thing though. Juice Wells played like 3 games. 2 of them he was extremely hurt. The other game was Georgia, in which he actually got hurt. But before he got hurt against Georgia, he played 10 total receiving snaps. One of them was a touchdown.
Right, I know.
So I got Juice Wells at number 7. Now he plays at Ole Miss. And 6 for me is Miami's Xavier Restrepo.
Okay. He didn't make my top 15, but I watched him.
Oh, dude. I cannot believe he didn't make your top 15.
I know. And
Holy smokes.
I know. It's weird to say this. He didn't make my top 15, and I can make an argument he's a top 3 route runner in this group.
Oh, brother, he's good.
I know, but
he's good. All right, I'm going to talk about Xavier.
Yeah, please do. And I'll give you my my concerns list of why.
I wondered if he was top 5. Like I wondered if he was 5 for you. But we're kind of running out of names, so I guess that this was inevitable. So he's a redshirt junior this year, University of Miami, 5'10", 195 pounds, and he looks like a rocked up 195. Like he looks like he hurts.
Yeah, I have him at 199 now, so he's getting even bigger.
Okay, so he's getting bigger. So a little bit of a recruiting background for him. 3-star wide receiver from Deerfield Beach, Florida. Went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School before he transferred over to Deerfield Beach. Need to be able to say that if it's going to be in my notes here. Played both receiver and cornerback in high school, but it's more than that, Connor. I have some of his high school stats here. 48 total touchdowns throughout his high school career. 8 interceptions. Okay, not bad. Over 200 tackles. 500 passing yards. 3,000 receiving yards. And over 2,000 rushing yards. This guy played every position.
He's Booby Miles.
He's Ronnie Bass.
Yeah, just everything out there.
Literally just played single position. So he chose Miami. He had some scholarship offers from, I think, Georgia, Boston College, Kentucky, Louisville, Michigan, others. But Miami was sort of, it seemed like his dream school all along. So ends up sticking with Miami. Didn't play a ton in his first 2 seasons when he was there. Started 3 games his redshirt sophomore season, but he ended up missing 5 games due to injury. So last year was kind of his coming out party of his total talent. Started 13 games as a redshirt junior, set Miami's record with 85 receptions last season. A little nugget that I found. Now, I haven't, called the principal to verify this, but believe he had a over 4.0 GPA throughout his entire high school career. So shout out to this dude. Going to class, learning something. So what I love about Restrepo is he brings that all-around athleticism, all of those high school stats that I listed off. It's like he does all of those things at once while playing the slot. The strengths I have listed for him: good all-around athlete with a really nice blend of strength, quickness, and body control. He looks really strong for his size. He's got great balance to not only take but also dish out contact. So that means
he's dishing out content.
And he's dishing out content.
Does he have time for all this?
And he's coming on the pod. No, I don't know. Maybe. Very precise route runner. It goes back to the body control that I was very, very impressed with. He's not. I'm not going to say he's Garrett Wilson level, but remember, a part of Garrett Wilson's scouting report that I missed on, because I had Garrett Wilson wide receiver 5 in that class. It was a good wide receiver class, to my defense. But the reason why I had Garrett Wilson at number 5 is because I was like, man, really good all-around player. Is there a standout trait for him? It's not like he's got like elite speed. It's not like he's got crazy elusiveness. It's not like he's got the biggest height out there of these wide receivers. I did not take into account how much true core strength, body control it can be a trump card for you. And Garrett Wilson is just so in control at all times, no matter what route he is running, no matter whether he has the ball or not. When he is a playmaker after the catch, like he's so in control of everything. And I feel like I get those vibes with Restrepo, who also has very, very strong hands. Now, some of the weaknesses for him, I think he lacks a difference-making top speed. For as much as I like the quickness, as much as I think he is explosive, I don't think he's this field stretcher of a player. I think he is a true slot receiver. So if you kind of diminish the value there for just slot guys, I can understand that. Limited yards after catch, despite all of what I said with the quickness and body control, he just doesn't have a lot of it. Like the yards after catch, for whatever reason, 18th percentile. So that was something that I feel like there's a little bit more in the tank for him to get to. That's sort of a projection that I'm thinking gets better. The hand placement when he's blocking can be a little hit and miss, but you can kind of teach that. You can figure that out. And he's got very limited experience versus press because Miami intentionally puts him in the slot because he's really great at running routes from the slot with those two-way goes. Naturally, he just doesn't face a lot of press when he's there. So if you're looking for that experience versus press coverage, he won't have it for you. The comp that I had for Xavier Restrepo was Sterling Shepard. I think both of those guys were built very similarly. They're kind of like these bigger, rocked up players that were really good route runners, that were really good with body control and could be great in contested catch situations. But Sterling Shepard was kind of the same way. I never saw him, and I like Shepard a lot during his recruiting or when he was coming out in his draft class. I never saw him as this like vertical field stretcher. Yes, he had some big, deep passes, but that was more like Oklahoma's offense than necessarily him being a great burner. So I think Shepard probably had better wheels than Restrepo did, but on a play-by-play basis, I felt both of those guys sort of won in the same way of just how great of route runners and good body control players they were.
So Restrepo, great college slot. Like really, really great college slot. Caught 53 first downs last year, 32 explosive plays, snappy routes, good agility. I think my concerns for him as a pro, not a college player, is that some of the like bigger games, Florida State, he got shut out. And it wasn't all against Jarrian Jones. And I didn't think the quarterback play that game specifically helped him. But it was a lot of Jarrian Jones. He couldn't do much to me. Clemson, 7 targets, 26 receiving yards.
Yeah.
Couldn't do much. He devoured Louisville for almost 200 yards, devoured Texas A&M. Like credit to him for that. Like he's not like a dud in all big games. It's not what I'm saying. I just thought the best look at I got of him in terms of NFL projection was against Florida State. And there was a couple of times he was open and should have got the ball. But as a whole sample size, I was like, he's just not really threatening over the top. He's not creative enough with the ball in his hands that you're going to scheme him. So he's a guy that constantly has to win from the slot in the middle of the field. And if he doesn't do that, he's also really not big enough to help as a big-time blocker. So not a really great college player, will be a pro. I did struggle to land him in my top 15.
I got to watch the Florida State game because I did not do that one. I watched 4 games of him, A&M, I watched Georgia Tech, I watched Clemson, I watched Rutgers. So I did not see the Florida State game.
Like, we are in summer scouting where we're not watching 12 games of a guy.
Right.
And it just goes to show you how it can just, like, we have varying opinions of things that we saw and how we can carry him into the season. I think it's why it's great to have these conversations.
Who else?
Tory Horton?
Yeah, go ahead on Horton. I just talked to Restrepo. Go ahead. I got him at 10. You have him at 8?
Yeah, I think I have him at 8. Let me double check. Okay. I have him at 8.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to like about Tory Horton, right? Like,
what's not to like about Tory Horton?
6'2", 187. He's been a highly productive college player for the last 2 years. He's had over 1,100 yards both of the last 2 years. 8 touchdowns each of the last 2 years. Drop rate went down in 2023. Had 8 drops in 2022. He had more catches in 2023 and only 4 drops. 18 explosive plays last year, 30 explosive plays the year before that. Lengthy frame. I think he's got room to get even stronger. Good ball tracking, body adjustments, does not care about getting hit, dominates the middle of the field. Caught 42 of his 50 targets in the middle of the field short area, caught 10 of 11 intermediate, 4 touchdowns in the intermediate over the middle of the field. Very good at making the first man miss on the scheme touches he gets upfield. Tons of experience and production playing on the outside. It's not perfect, right? Not the greatest athlete in the world. Routes could be upright. Needs to sell them a little bit more. Full body selling. But like, I think Horton could be a possession number 3 with his size that can come in and play on the outside and just has a knack for finding space in the red zone. So I really, really enjoyed watching him because he's a little bit more seasoned than most of these guys, in my opinion.
Yes. Love the route running from him. And you really don't, he feels like a dude who's very like leggy. He's very high waisted. And normally when you get players like that, they're just, they cannot sink the hips. It's really difficult for them to do that, but he's able to do that, I think, really well. Really good route runner for his size, really precise, super strong hands at contact. I feel like he's got really good hands, some of the best hands in the class. Yeah, okay, like the slender build. Yeah, he can get moved off of his routes a little bit easier. The top speed, it takes a little bit more time to build up, but he is, I just think he is a very solid possession type of receiver. The comp that I came up with is Mike Williams, the Syracuse version of him. Buccaneer great Mike Williams as well. So these bigger, taller, longer guys who I think were able to succeed at the NFL level because they were a little bit better route runners and just excellent hands from Tory Horton. So
we should definitely talk about Evan Stewart, right? You had him at 9?
I got him at 9.
I had him at 6, so we have him in the same tier. Transfers from A&M to Oregon. Had some interesting comments.
Did he?
Yeah, he basically, not perfectly rewarded.
Better not be Connor Wegman slander.
No, it was.
I'll drop him further on this list if I need to.
It was about the training staff. Just that he didn't have clarity on his injuries in 2023. I think he battled an ankle injury in spring of 23, and then a lower body leg injury because college football is like hockey. With the injury updates, it's like
sometimes A&M for sure.
A&M's horrible.
A&M's lower body. The guy's leg gets amputated on the field. And they're
or he stubbed his toe.
Yeah, he's dead.
You'll figure it out when you see him on the field.
Either they hacksawed his foot off, or he just stubbed his pinky toe. It's one of the two. You never know.
Yeah, he's like Greg Jennings in that viral Madden video. Limping all the way to the end zone,
which we cannot quote most of here on this show.
No, but, or he has a paper cut on his kneecap, which that'd be kind of hard to get a paper cut on your kneecap. Anyway, he's interesting to me, Trevor, and he is a big projection. Don't get me wrong, because you look at last year, 38 catches, 514 yards, 4 touchdowns in 8 games. He missed a lot of time. Mm-hmm. This guy moves different, though. He does. He's got excellent feet. sharp movements, change of direction, big time athletic background. He in high school has standout numbers in the 100, the 200, the long jump, the triple jump, and like you could see the athleticism on the field. But it's got to turn into production at Oregon, right? And this is an offense that's gotten a lot of production out of their wide receivers. So 6 foot 175, he needs to get bigger and stronger. And you've seen the injuries kind of pile up a little bit on the lower body. Mm-hmm. But just not a lot of cats move like this. And I think in this offense, he's going to do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, in high school, he won the state title in the long jump and came in second place in the triple jump. Then he won the state title in the 4x400 and got second place in the 4x200. So it's like this dude was either winning state titles or he was right there for some other state titles. I mean, he has true difference-making speed. The reason why I have him at number 9 is the same reason why I had Xavier Worthy outside of my top 10 in last year's wide receiver class. Right now, from the tape that I saw in 2023 from Evan Stewart, they're like the same player. And I had my qualms with Xavier Worthy because I felt like Worthy was just his speed. And when I watched Evan Stewart last year, and maybe injuries kind of went into it, I'm not sure. Maybe I need to go back and watch some 2022. If you guys really bully me in the comments to go watch Evan Stewart 2022, I will do it. But I did not see a nuanced route runner. I saw somebody who approached getting off the line of scrimmage, facing press, and getting vertical as I am faster than you. Yeah. And he is obviously, right. But there are then corners that were like, okay, I know what your moves are. I know what you're doing here. I'm going to get hands on you in an advantageous point. I'm going to bump you off your route. And now all of a sudden his separation is much lower than I thought it would be. Connor, for a guy who is this fast, his separation percentage against single coverage was 32nd percentile. Shouldn't be. Not a
lot of nuance there, like you said. That's the issue.
You've got to have much more of a diverse release package to you. You've got to be much more diverse of a route runner in whatever, even if you're just running your vertical routes. I was disappointed in that area from Stewart, and I had so many flashbacks to watching, and that's not even to say like he does have some strength issues being as light as he is. So when it comes to the catch point and catching through traffic and just regular catches, he has some strength issues to him. And so when you combine all of those, it just gave me flashbacks again to Xavier Worthy, where this is an ultra athlete type of a player that I continue to just want more from as a wide receiver, not just a sprinter who put on a helmet. That's kind of where I'm at with Stewart and why he's at number 9. But I know we're probably going to get some pushback from that from people.
And then Andy Reid drafts him, and you hate your life.
Yeah, and then everything that I said gets posted as bulletin board material because Andy Reid drafted him. So,
okay, I don't want to. I'm trying not to skip people.
Where do you have Isaiah Bond?
I have him as wide receiver 3.
Okay, all right. So we'll get to him in a second. Juice Wells, I will be very quick on this.
Yeah. Talk about Juice Wells because you are the stan of Juice Wells, and I respect that.
I cannot quit the man. So he was at South Carolina over the last 2 years, I believe. Now he is at Ole Miss for his final year of eligibility. This was a 0-star recruit in the 2020 recruiting class. Wells was not highly recruited, and he says this because of his grades. Like, he did not care enough about school in high school to realize that, hey, football could take me places. He did not have the grades to even really get considered for scholarships in a lot of places. So he ended up committing to Fork Union Military Academy in Virginia, but then he was able to transfer over to James Madison. He set the single season records at JMU for catches, receiving yards, and touchdown receptions. Then he transferred to South Carolina in 2022, played 2022, had a monster year. Had all SEC honors that year, was an All-American candidate. I thought he was a stud in 2022. Suffered a foot injury in camp going into 2023, and he was really limited from the beginning of the year. He tried to play through it. He played like 3 games, and then they just had to. I mean, they shut him down for the rest of the season, or maybe he shut himself down because he didn't want to because that's kind of real for these players too, right? I mean, like, unfortunately, if you go out there and play and you're hurt, affects the draft stock a little bit. So I don't know if it was kind of a South Carolina wasn't wanting him to play, didn't think that he was cleared, or, Juice kind of didn't want to put out bad tape because his foot really wasn't feeling right. It kind of, however it happened, he ends up leaving South Carolina. Now he is with Ole Miss. But when he is on the field, if you just look at that 2022 tape, and I mean, you can go back to the JMU tape too, is a really good football player. Really good combination. So he is, I forgot to mention the height, weight, 6'1", 210 pounds. So a really good size player. Good combination of size and speed. Strong at the catch point. Really good contested catch type of player. Super competitive when the ball is in the air. Really strong core balance for yards after the catch and contact. And this is something I love about him. The second the ball gets into his hand, his first step is explosive. Whether it is for yards after catch or whether he is getting off the line of scrimmage and up the field, that first step is difference making, man. And that is not the case for all of these receivers. His explosiveness is for real. It's why he had an 88th percentile yards after catch percentage. This dude was just the ball was hitting his hands and he was taking off. He was always getting a lot of really good yards. This is another player that, like I said at the beginning of the show, too comfortable with contested catch situations. Now he's a monster at it. I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to fully commit to it, but he's got shades of Dez Bryant to him. He's like Dez Bryant light, man. I mean, he is just a beast when that ball is in the air and when you're getting yards after the catch and exploding off the line of scrimmage. Now, Dez was a lot bigger than him, so of course, bigger and being the same athlete matters more, especially when we're going to talk about making a projection to the NFL level. But that's the style of player that we're talking about here. Now you understand why it's tough for me to quit the dude. But he is too reliant on contested catch situations. His routes are kind of more rounded than they are crisp. Basically, all of his routes are sorted from a vertical route tree. So there's a lot of nuance of his game that needs to get better. But he's a certain type of athlete that I always gravitate towards from the wide receiver position. A little scouting summary blurb, and then we'll move on. Wells is an alpha type of receiver. His size and speed are adequate to start at the pro level, but it's really what happens at the catch point that sets him apart. He truly attacks the ball in the air. When he has space for yards after the catch, he explodes to rack them up as well. His routes aren't super refined, and he's a bit inconsistent as a blocker, but he's a true playmaker in the receiving game who can be a wide receiver too with more technique in his releases and his routes. So I can't quit the man. Number 7 on my rankings.
I mean, when you hear that, you get why, though, right? I mean, two years ago, he caught 15 touchdowns. It's how quick we forget. So I'm excited. There are a couple guys that we've already gone through on this process that I just want to see them healthy and get right and go back to making plays again. And he's one of those guys. We talked about Brew McCoy earlier. He's one of those guys. We should both talk about Elic Ayomanor, right? Because we had him in this tier or no? Did you not?
I have him at 4.
You have him at 4. Okay. I have him at 7.
I love him, brother.
There's a lot to love.
Dude.
And this is considering in 2022, he tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So everything we watch is him coming off of that, which is wildly impressive.
This dude's awesome. Yeah, I was tempted to put him higher. I had to kind of rein myself in a little bit. I was like, all right, hold on. He's not Randy Moss. But, I really did, man. Obviously, it's a joke. Calm down, people. Elic Ayomanor, 3-star wide receiver, 2022 recruiting class. Was born in Canada.
Canada, baby.
Alberta, Canada, baby.
Do we get to claim him? He played high school ball in Massachusetts. Americans doing that.
We? The United States or the Northeast?
The Americans. Yes, the United States.
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we
do either. I think Canada Canada gets this. Canada deserves this one.
Yeah, we couldn't do this to Canada. So he is an Ayomanor. He is an interesting player in the fact that I didn't know about his knee injury when I started watching his film. And I watched one of the early games because I'd say on the show, the way that I scout at least is I like to watch the season in succession because it tells me how much better a player was able to get throughout the year, especially a young player, which he was just a redshirt sophomore. I think he was, he was a redshirt freshman at the time. So I didn't know about the knee injury. And I'm watching him and he's got a brace on. And I was like, okay, I need to look into this a second. And then I see him kind of like move a certain way, really explosive, gets vertical, and I go, oh, okay, there's the track background. I was like, but I feel like I would see it elsewhere. And then I saw that he tore his ACL, MCL, and meniscus the year before, and I was like, oh, okay, there we go. So I sort of fast forward a little bit to the end of the year. He's got the brace off. He's feeling confident in the knee. Dude, this guy's awesome. I mean, he'll do everything for you. His routes are way more refined than you would think for a player of his experience. Super high football IQ. Now, sort of like on a play-by-play basis, I think he could catch the football a little bit better, but he's got some sick contested catches, strong at the catch point. One of the best blocking players that we've got in this wide receiver class.
Dude, physical blocker.
I think that track background, explosiveness, that's going to be there. This is a dude who ran a 10.76 when he was in high school for track and field. He's listed at 6'2", 210 pounds. So to have that kind of explosiveness is awesome. To me, man, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Ayomanor has the framework of a first-round wide receiver. And if we get a fully healthy year from him this year, as long as the quarterback play is up to par, I think he'll play his way into that because I think this dude's awesome.
It's all there. I mean, you nailed it. The little things, physical run blocker. He will outmuscle and just dominate smaller coverage at times where it looks like a man amongst boys. You know what I really like, Trevor, that I didn't write down for a lot of these guys? He has experience in an offense where he's not given a ton of help and easy touches. Like, you don't see Ayomanor motioned into the slot and now he's going to get a shallow crosser that everyone cleared out for him, or we're going to throw him 10 screens. He plays more like an NFL outside wide receiver. And that's really hard to do, not only coming off your entire knee exploding, every ligament, but also that he's a redshirt sophomore this year. It's a young guy.
Yeah.
So I really liked him a lot too. I'm just waiting to see. And by the way, put Travis Hunter on a poster. I mean, the catch on the back of Travis Hunter's helmet is maybe the catch of the college football season.
Dude, I watched the Colorado game and he smokes Travis Hunter on a vertical route. And I'm like, what? You're 6'2", 210. Who's doing this?
Dion could have gotten a $200 billion NIL investment at halftime, and they didn't have an answer for this kid. They tried everything.
But okay, you know why they couldn't cover him? It's not just because he's big. It's not just because he's a great athlete. It's because his football IQ is so high already. His release package for a redshirt freshman last year was incredibly impressive. I mean, he's beating Travis Hunter with his first two steps.
Yep. That should not happen.
And like that's because he is getting such a clean release because he's so good at recognizing, or at least the tape certainly tells me he's so good at recognizing where the leverage is, how to attack it, what release to do, how to get even with the player, and now you're behind him, and now you're off to the races. I could not keep him out of my top 5, man. He is awesome.
Yeah, that game he had 294 yards.
No, just absolutely no answer.
The things I'm keeping an eye on for him to get into my top 5, and a lot of it's coming off the injury. Like I think there wasn't a lot of lateral quickness, I thought, last year. You said you kind of saw some of it coming back at the end of the year.
Yes.
Maybe I really need to dive in and look for that. I want to see more lateral agility.
And that's fair.
I agree with you that the hands could be more consistent. Like, you have all this size, ability to shield and position yourself, catch the ball consistently. Because if you do, you're unstoppable. Yep. And he didn't do that last year, in my opinion. He had over 100 targets, 62 catches. He caught 15 of 34 contested catches. So he's good, but he left some plays on the field. Mm-hmm. And I think he's better than that. So that should probably take us into Isaiah Bond, and then we could each read our top 5s.
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Yeah, let's do that.
So I have Bond as wide receiver 3, and he's going to be ahead of some big names.
He's 8 for me. He was wide receiver 8 for me.
5'11", 180, not the biggest guy in the world. Transferred from Alabama to Texas. Said, that was mainly because of Nick Saban retiring. Mm-hmm. Not something you see every day for a player that had 48 catches, almost 700 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, and is like a big recruit. I mean, top 100 player in his recruiting class.
Yep.
Won the Georgia 6A 100 meter, 10.51. won the 200 meter, 21.19 state titles as a junior. Like you get what kind of athlete this is.
Crazy speed.
He just glides over the top of the defense.
Yeah.
Tracks the deep ball. 17 of his 48 catches went for 15 plus yards. I mean, the routes to me are so smooth that his speed really doesn't decrease when he changes direction. Where I'm like, I don't really know how you have an answer for that if you get him in an offense that is consistently utilizing him in that manner. Because I don't see a lot of guys that can run with him as he starts to change direction, because the speed really doesn't go. There's no like deceleration with this kid.
No,
it's all
his speed special.
It's poetry, the way he moves. And he has experience playing inside and outside. I think the things he needs to clean up are correctable. And I think they're going to be corrected in Texas offense. Like, he needs to be aware of running himself into coverage. He runs himself into coverage too often because he's so fast. Yep. But if he starts to find how to change gears a little bit more, he's going to eat up the middle of the field when they start sitting two safeties so worried about him going over the top. And he's got to angle himself back to the quarterback on certain routes. So the nuance of the position is not there yet, but he's not that small. He's small, but he's not tiny. He's relatively average. Yeah. And the speed is insane, and it's productive speed because he knows how to track the deep ball. So Bond, to me, I mean, I'm not going to call him like Jalen Waddle while watching him at Alabama, but it's close to special in terms of the way he can impact the third level of the field. And I'm going to bet on a massive year at Texas.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him in Texas. I really am, because he also could hold the key for Quinn Ewers, right? Who really struggled last year, I think, with accuracy, throwing the ball, consistent accuracy, throwing the ball deep.
Yes.
Xavier Worthy's now gone, but you're subbing in Isaiah Bond. You still have that opportunity. Bond still has that speed. They could really help each other out here. I agree with you. I mean, the only real concern that I have for him, because I said, look, he knows when to hand fight, when he's getting when he's got to fight for vertical releases to try to get up the sideline. He's not just doing speed releases to dip the shoulder and run by him. I mean, he is chopping the hands down. He's not afraid to be physical. So also not afraid to put his body on the line for catches. Like, he was somebody who would dive and full extension and all that. He had that tough catch. He had a handful of tough catches this year that I was really impressed with for a guy who can win with as much speed as he does. He does not shy away from it. And that's why I very easily had him above a guy like Evan Stewart, because I thought that he brought more of a physical profile to it. It's just like you said, the nuances of, to me, are you winning as a route runner? Are you winning with your releases? And do you know how to naturally find space with your speed? And there were times when I felt like he didn't do that, right? You mentioned like overrunning the space and running yourself into coverage and not really seeing where that is. And sometimes that's not always his fault. Sometimes it's the play, it's the route that you're being asked to run. Sometimes there's a different purpose because routes have combinations and complements and things like that. So I don't want to make a sweeping statement, but there were a handful of times when I was just like, okay, if he kind of understands it a little bit more and can tempo that speed a little bit better, could absolutely see this guy in my top 5 receivers when it's all said and done. Player comp I had for him was Santana Moss.
I like that one.
How well he was able to win with his speed. So there we go.
All right, 5 through 1. Take us home.
Yeah.
Did we miss someone?
So I've listed my 4. You've listed your 3. Who do you have at 5?
Emeka Egbuka.
Okay, I have Travis Hunter at 5.
I have Travis Hunter at 4.
Okay. All right, let's talk Travis Hunter first, and then we'll get to Emeka Egbuka, because I have Emeka Egbuka at 3.
Okay, so we're pretty close here.
We have the same top 2. It's just a matter of who
we do have the same top 2.
Do you have at 1?
We will see. Stay tuned. Hopefully a 3-minute ad plays right now. People are like, no!
Teaser, folks.
Just kidding. I don't want that for any of them.
Feeding families. Let's do Travis Hunter first, and then we'll do Emeka Egbuka.
I mean, here's the thing with Hunter, is that you do have to factor in when watching him that he's also playing cornerback. Like, he's starting at corner.
Absolutely stupid.
I actually think it is legitimately stupid. Honestly, it's idiotic. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault. He's a young player. He's trying to help his team, and the best version of Colorado has him playing both ways. I think
he might be better at corner.
We're going to get there. Because guess what, folks? We're going to talk about Travis Hunter on corner. I only watched him at corner.
Guess what? We're talking about him as edge rusher.
We're going to see if he can punt and kick. I mean, when I watched him on tape, not on tape, on broadcast, like just games last year, Colorado was must-watch TV. Everybody wanted to watch Colorado for better or for worse reasons. Like some people wanted them to lose. Some people wanted them to win. They were entertaining as hell. I always, on the broadcast, was like, man, I hope Travis Hunter plays corner. Like, not only do we need more corners, but I like his build. I like his movement skills. After actually watching the tape, and I didn't watch the corner tape yet, I watched the wide receiver tape, I'm intrigued by him at wide receiver because of the athlete he is. And so wide receiver 4, he finishes 2023 with 58 catches for 734 yards and 5 touchdowns, while also starting at cornerback, while also having a significant injury in the middle of the season. He's just a quick, explosive athlete, change of direction skills, stop and start, speed to threaten over the top, plus body control to keep plays in bounds. So slippery after the catch. I thought after the catch, he looked identical to Garrett Wilson. Identical. I don't think he's anywhere close before the catch. Garrett Wilson was a totally different player before the catch, and I won't put really any prospect on that level. Yeah. But so when he has the ball in his hands, he runs and looks exactly like Garrett, like how slippery he is and the stop and start and the quick cuts. He's pretty fearless when working the middle of the field. Like, you got to give him a lot of credit. He will go over the middle of the field and just not care.
Especially because he gets rocked.
He gets battered.
This is somebody who, like, one of my critiques of him are, because I agree with you, in my strength category for Travis Hunter, he is very elusive after the catch. Connor, I was very shocked when I saw this. Only a 3.3 yards after catch per reception average. 6th percentile. I thought that had been way higher for him.
I think it's a couple things. I think, one, they make it very obvious when they're going to throw him the ball, and there's always a second and third man there instantly.
Well, I would agree with you, but I would also say a big reason for that is because his lean frame, I don't think he takes contact well.
No, he doesn't. I wrote right away, he's got to get bigger and stronger. He is a slender guy.
Going back to your point, it's pretty impressive how fearless he is as a catcher over the middle, especially when his body does not take contact well.
No,
he's not bouncing off people. The second even arm tackles bring Travis Hunter down. Yeah. He has to get bigger. That's an area that's tough for him. But continue, because I'll kind of piggyback off.
I'm almost done. I really just wrote he's got to get bigger and stronger. The route tree is a hitch or a go. Because they're like, you're our best athlete here. Just get you the football. And listen, I'm not expecting Travis Hunter while starting at corner to be running, 7 different routes consistently and doing all the goal is to get him the ball. And Dion, being the athlete that he was, multi-sport athlete, knows, like, just let your best player take over the game. And that's how they treat Travis Hunter. Yes. Why I said it's legitimately stupid at times that he's playing both corner and receiver as much as he's doing the right thing for his team, and you give the kid a lot of credit, is that as a pro, I walked away from watching his wide receiver in tape and go, man, how good would he be if he just played wide receiver? And I guarantee I will walk away from watching the corner tape and go, man, how good would he be if he just played corner? Right. And it's not just idiot, your job is to project that at the next level. The part of it that's problematic is it is now physically taking a toll on him. And that is significant in this.
Yeah, he basically he has to declare after this year. Not that he wouldn't anyways, but you basically, like, we're out here talking about, like, running back mileage now with a wide receiver / cornerback.
Absolutely.
So, anybody that doesn't know anything about Travis Hunter, I mean, he plays at Colorado now. Obviously, like Connor said, he plays for Deion Sanders because he's the head coach there. He was the number 1 overall player in the 2021 recruiting class. Yeah. Number 1 overall player as a 5-star, unanimous 5-star. And Deion got him to come to Jackson State. So he was at Jackson State.
He was a Florida State commit, or at least leaning. It was one of the biggest stunners on the hat table in a long time.
It genuinely might be the craziest flip in college football history, right?
It's got to be up there.
Number 1 overall recruit. So anyways, goes to Jackson State, plays both sides of the ball, but doesn't play as much. Goes over to Colorado, obviously becomes a major emphasis of basically everything. And look, this guy's a stud. And he's just, like you said, it's like he's just going out there and he's just playing like backyard football because he kind of has to. He doesn't really have the time to be able to focus on one of these positions. He's just got to play both as best he can. But it's crazy how good he still plays them. My scouting summary for him says, Hunter is a rare athlete who truly has the potential to start at wide receiver or corner at the NFL level. He possesses above average speed. Now, I will say this. I might be crazy. I thought his speed was good. Like, he is obviously a very good athlete, but I didn't think he was like Isaiah Bond fast.
No, he's not running 4.3. Right. And if he does, like, oh, whoa. But, like, it doesn't look like... When I turned Bond film on, I was like, well, there's a 4.3. Like, right. I didn't feel that way with Travis Hunter.
Okay.
I agree.
I'm glad that we saw that the same way. He possesses above average speed, flexibility, and explosiveness in both roles. He is a naturally gifted player with, and this is really important, elite hand-eye coordination. Elite. You talk about guys who are natural athletes. We often talk about movement, things like that. Travis Hunter is one of the most natural football catchers I've ever seen, because he's sitting here at a $185. We talked about how lean his frame is at 6'1", how it sometimes prohibits him playing through the strength parts of the game that you would want to see him be better at. And yet this guy's got crazy contested catches. He's always full arm extension, catching it with his hands through all sorts of contact, through his body going everywhere. Again, you talk about like a little bit of Garrett Wilson parallels. That's what Garrett Wilson was unbelievable at. The second the ball hit his hands, boom, it's over. He's hauling it in. The hand-eye coordination that Travis Hunter has is elite, nothing short of elite. So he's an unbelievable player. As a wide receiver, he kind of reminded me of D.D. Westbrook when D.D. Westbrook was at Oklahoma. Somebody who the route tree is a little bit simplified, but D.D. was just a really damn good athlete. And Oklahoma told him, hey, just go run and get open. Baker Mayfield's going to find you the football. And they did that a lot because he had a lot of yards. So obviously Travis is going to get drafted a lot higher than D.D. Westbrook was, but strictly as a wide receiver. And the impact that Westbrook had when he was at Oklahoma, I saw kind of those vertical parallels with how athletic both of those guys were.
All right, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about this. Who'd you have at 5?
Hunter.
You had Hunter.
So I have Hunter 5. I have Elic Ayomanor at 4, and then I have Emeka Egbuka at 3.
So let's talk about Egbuka, because I have him at 4.
Okay.
I mean, a weird year for Emeka Egbuka. You kind of throw it out in a weird way.
I didn't even evaluate 2023 for him.
There's not right. I mean, he was hurt. He did not have a 100-yard game, which was, kind of shocking when you look at the year before when he had 6 of them. Yeah, 600-yard games in 2022. I mean, he missed 3 games last year, but he just never looked right.
Yep.
In 2022, he had over 1,100 yards. He's still the guy to me we talked about at summer scouting last year, where I look at some of his ability and think of Keenan Allen, where it's like, man, the way this guy can change gears through his routes to create space and separation. He's a route technician. He can play inside. He can play outside. A lot of people will kind of think of Jackson Smith and Jigba when they watch him, but I actually think he's a better athlete than JSN was, the more vertical aspect of the game, while JSN was a pretty rare territory in terms of the technician he was. But Egbuka's really good. Concentration allows him to make very difficult grabs. He's very productive over the middle of the field as well. I think he's got to get stronger and he's got to get healthy. But Egbuka seems like to me a very high-end number 2 wide receiver in the NFL.
I agree with you. I think he is a slightly bigger, slightly faster Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
That's the type of player that I see. I mean, he's former 5-star wide receiver in the 2021 recruiting class. I mean, he had all the recruiting accolades, goes to Ohio State. He's able to absolutely stand out in a major way in 2022. Numbers are fantastic. 92nd percentile in overall separation, 92nd percentile in separation versus single coverage. This is, of course, the 2022 season, which I told you I was evaluating him from. Very quick and controlled player, high separation scores due to elite body control and speed. Speed control, I think, is the one that
I like that
I think is underrated about him. He is a willing, feisty blocker, high IQ player, knows how to attack all different kinds of leverages and find space in between zone. Really good contact balance for yards after the catch. Lack of size does sort of limit the catch radius, the efficacy of blocking abilities, but this to me is just. I'm not going to lie. Like I almost had him at 2. I almost had him wide receiver 2, just because I think the projection's so easy. Like he's going to be
same way.
Like he's going to be good. And in a world where we're trying to just bet on and rank who's going to be good in the NFL, I think Emeka Egbuka is just a really easy projection with so many translatable skills. What he does is so translatable to something that will succeed at the NFL level with all that he brings to the table. So yeah, that's why I had him at wide receiver 3.
All right, so we went over our wide receiver 3. I had Bond at 3. I know you had Ayomanor in your top 5. So the top 2.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go ahead?
I don't know. Do you want to go ahead?
So for me at 2, I have Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona.
So do I.
And then number 1's Luther Bird in the 3rd from Missouri.
Yep.
I think probably kind of anticlimactic there, but
people were really hoping that we'd get to the end and that we would just like absolutely fight each other.
Yeah, we sold it well.
Straight up plant the House of Dragon flags with these 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, exactly. With McMillan, I thought he reminded me so much of Cortland Sutton at SMU.
Ooh, okay.
And now McMillan's listed 6'5", 210. He's coming off a year where he had 90 catches on 130 targets for almost 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. The year before that, he caught 8 touchdowns on 39 catches. He's played with Noah Fafita since high school.
Mm.
So it's no surprise these 2 have gotten to Arizona. And
since birth, even.
I mean, they
were in the same preschool together.
They were, right? It's way before they were. No, but they played before high school, I think.
I have no idea.
Not preschool. That would be ridiculous.
Just making that up.
I think they played youth football together.
It wouldn't shock me, I guess.
Preschool would be, there's nobody's playing football in preschool. But imagine Fafita at the hospital before they let him go home through something at McMillan.
Yeah,
and the rest was history.
Yep.
Listen, this is a big-bodied perimeter target, natural, big, strong hands. Like, you watch Ayomanor, and he has a lot of the ability that McMillan has, but McMillan's hands are just on a different tier for me.
Glue.
Like, just a ball, it just sticks.
Glue, man.
One hand, two hands away from the body, in tight. Contested catch rate got better from 2022, 2023. He's the type of guy in the red zone that he's open when he's covered. Plus catch radius, shields defenders, makes the one-handed grab look routine. The strides just
the UTEP one-handed grab. I had to stop watching.
Defies gravity.
I had to stop watching. I had to walk away.
Take a break. Drink a glass of water.
Dude, I had to go on a walk. I had to walk my dog. Think about it.
And say, we'll try this again later. He's got these huge strides that just cover a different amount of grass with and without the ball.
Yeah.
Where you're like, damn, he just started running. How's he 8 yards into the route?
Yeah, man.
And then, he had 63 first downs in 2023.
Stupid.
I didn't really even write down weaknesses for him. There's not much to get better on. Finish a couple more plays, but this dude, these top 2 are really good, man. Like, really good, just different.
So the weaknesses that I have for him, slender build, right? So I think that kind of goes into how you play through contact. Now, he plays strong through contact, but again, when you get to the NFL level, Tetairoa McMillan kind of warps my brain because he's also built differently. He's got a really long torso, but he's still tall. So every other ligament is also still, or every other limb is still long for him. But his build is unique. I think his strides are unique. It's he runs like Robbie Anderson, but he doesn't play like Robbie Anderson, but it's just, he kind of looks like that in his build, but he's a totally different kind of player in how he plays the game. So he's got that slender build to him. He does have very low separation scores, which is okay because you mentioned his hands are like glue, but 38 contested catch targets. That's a shit ton, man.
This guy is just, he goes to bed and the corner is just standing next to the bed staring at him, and he's like, okay, enough. Yeah. Yeah.
9th percentile in separation versus single coverage. It just kind of is what it is. Naturally, it's tougher for him being 6'5" to sort of sink the hips and flip the hips and change direction. He's a feisty blocker, but I wonder if he lacks the true mass to be able to still do that at the NFL level. There's going to be a lot of people that bring up the Mike Evans comp.
It's not as dense.
I can't sign off on it. Mike came into the league at 6'5", up and like 232.
Right.
And
yep.
McMillan is basically only 210 pounds because he's tall, because his bones weigh that much. He is skinny. So like that, it's really tough for as great as McMillan is and as many attributes that he does share from a strength perspective of Mike Evans, who is of similar height. I can't fully just like sign off on the comp. It also means too much to me. So it's really tough for me to compare anybody to Mike Evans. But McMillan is it's sometimes a hard player to truly like encapsulate and describe how they win the way they do. But he is so dominant at what he does. I could not have him at number 2. Just because of how uniquely dominant this dude is at his size. So he is somebody who I am comfortable with him being wide receiver 2 going into the season. I am still workshopping exactly how I see him going into the NFL because what he does just does not come around very often, winning the way that he does by looking the way he does with his build.
Right. And I agree with you on the Mike Evans situation. I have the same take about he would need to be 15 pounds heavier to be Brandon Marshall, but he wants to play like Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't care that you're near me. I'm going to punch you in the shoulder and get open, and not open, but create a half a yard and catch the ball.
And that's why, man, like every player that came to my mind as a comp for him was at least 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
So I don't know what, like now I wonder, is that a sign? Like, am I supposed to take that as everybody who's winning the way that he is winning is doing so at 230 plus? He might be barely 210. Should that tell me, hey, you got to temper your expectations a little bit with him going to the league? I don't know.
That's why I wrote down Cortland Sutton. He came into the combine at 218. He didn't play at 218 at SMU. He played probably at 210. It's hard. It's hard. It makes him tricky.
I mean, that's all it is. He is a unique player. He's just like Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson was 240. Mike Evans was 232.
I know.
Where is Brandon Marshall? Brandon Marshall, 6'5", 230. I don't know, Jim. All right, let's talk about Luther Burden. Comment section, please. Talk to us about Tetairoa and McMillan. Are you confident that he can be the same player that we are seeing at Arizona at the NFL level? I would love to hear from you. But Connor, I would love to hear from you about your wide receiver 1 going into the season. My wide receiver 1 going into the season, Missouri's Luther Burden III.
Yeah, Luther Burden III, 5'11", 208, true junior. Finished last year with 86 catches, over 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, only dropped 4 passes, 20 missed tackles forced, former 5-star recruit. Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, he went to Missouri because he wanted to stay local, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I know that was a really big part of them getting him, kind of a shock. I mean, man, it's this dude, exceptional playmaking skills from anywhere on the field.
Yeah,
like, it's the Malik Neighbors kind of feel. I'm going to be honest. Be honest. I watched him and I'm like, damn, I just did this last year and I fell in love with that player. Fell in love with that player. Yeah. I have put my all my savings account on Malik Neighbors to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 1,800. No, but in seriousness, what I love about Bird,
it's plus 1,800?
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I get it. Daniel Jones is their quarterback. I get it. He's going to get the ball a lot.
Bet.
He's going to get the ball a lot.
Mid-show.
Here's the thing with Burden. You hear that, like, 5'11", 208, exceptional playmaker, threatens from everywhere on the field, but he is tough as shit. He is so strong, pound for pound. He gets rocked and just fires back up off the turf. He will go anywhere to catch the football. He is such a tough, hard-nosed throwback in that kind of way. And honestly, 13 for 23 on contested catches at that size is pretty good considering, I mean, he's not playing with some superstar quarterback and he's finding ways to make plays. Body control, adjustments, high pointing the ball, it's all there. 724 yards after the catch in 2023. Playmaker, creator, creative runner, fast, explosive, agile.
Words.
Yeah, all these adjectives that are beautiful. Now, I will say, here's a weird one with him. Over 80% of his snaps last year were in the slot. But the year before that, he played mostly out wide. So
that was Malik, wasn't it? Wasn't that Neighbors?
It was the Neighbors. I was just like, hey, you're the best player on the team. We got to move you around.
That is where football is going.
It is. It's what CeeDee Lamb does with the Cowboys.
It's what Justin Jefferson does with the Vikings. You are just putting your best player in the situation where they can put the most stress in the defense.
Right.
You just give them more space to operate.
There's a massive difference of guys that need to be in the slot versus guys that can be in the slot. And Burden can be in the slot. He doesn't have the typical height and length of a true number one wide receiver, but this league has changed a lot. And a guy that's 5'11", 208 is going to be fine. Yeah. I haven't landed on a comp for him yet. He really did remind me of Neighbors a lot. I didn't want to write that down because we just came off of the draft that Malik Neighbors was taken in. And give it a couple months, maybe I'll just land there anyway. I'm very curious your thoughts on what you saw for your number one wide receiver as well.
Yeah, I got a comp for him. I'll get to that in a second. A little bit more of a background on his recruiting profile. So we talk on this podcast about multi-sport athletes. Luther Burden III, legit multi-sport athlete. Okay, his father played basketball in both high school and college. Averaged 16 points per game at St. Louis University. Luther Burden III, the one that we're talking about here, won a state championship as a basketball player in high school, averaging 18 points per game. He had, I believe, all sorts of scholarship offers to potentially play basketball. He was even selected to participate in Team USA's youth development program for basketball. Like that's how good this dude was at basketball.
That's a rare air. That's ridiculous.
And yet he very clearly like chose football. Like he's like, no. I'm better at football. We're playing football. So that just, lets you guys know how good and how athletic this dude is. You listed a lot of the stats that he has there. My sort of scouting summary for him, just to encapsulate my thoughts here. Burden III is an excellent all-around athlete who naturally succeeds from the position. That's not to say he hasn't put in the work. His releases are precise, and he knows how to attack all kinds of leverages. But where he wins is as an athlete. His long speed is good for the pro level, and his change of direction, explosiveness, fluidity, and elusiveness are all elite with and without the ball, which is really important. There are some plays where strength can be an issue for him, but it does not hold him back from being an easy round one wide receiver in this class. And so, I mean, the weaknesses for him are very limited. I mean, he can sometimes get pushed around in the blocking game just because he's not the most dense dude in the world. You mentioned his measurables, but 5'11", 208. And then he does not always attack the ball in the air with the feistiness, fire, fierceness, whatever adjective you want to name for just like going up and getting the ball in the air. But he's still plenty strong at the catch point, and he is an unbelievable playmaker once he gets the ball in his hands. My comp for him is Terry McLaurin, because McLaurin is just that, man. McLaurin's just good. He's just a really damn good wide receiver. And some people will argue, because of his size and, whatever, like, okay, he's a top 20 receiver. Oh, okay, he's a top 15 receiver. Oh, maybe he's a fringe top 10 receiver. But he's in that conversation. And McLaurin is somebody who is less than 100 yards his rookie season away from having 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. McLaurin's a beast. And I think that him and Burden win in similar ways, just as those great all-around athletes that can beat you from a lot of different spots.
But how quickly people forget McLaurin ran a 4.35.
Right. No, McLaurin's legit.
Yeah.
McLaurin is
6 foot, 208. So
yep, very similar.
Very similar body type, straight line speed. 18 reps on the bench. I mean, pound for pound.
I did 19 yesterday, but
yeah, I warm up with 20, but I don't want to.
Right? Yeah, sure. Yeah, you had to throw in warm up. All right, can you read for the good people? 15 to 1. And I will read 15-1. And then
Reading? Never did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do you think we're podcasting?
Yes. 15, Sam Brown, now at Miami from Houston. 14, Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. 13, Brew McCoy at Tennessee. 12, Trey Harris at Ole Miss. 11, Caden Prather at Maryland. 10, Tez Johnson at Oregon. 9, Jalen Royals at Utah State. 8, Tory Horton at Colorado State. 7, Elic Ayomanor at Stanford. 6, Evan Stewart, who transferred from Texas A&M to Oregon. The top 5. 5 was Emeka Egbuka at Ohio State. 4, Travis Hunter at Colorado. 3, Isaiah Bond, who transferred from Alabama to Texas. Number 2, Tetairoa McMillan at Arizona. And number 1, Luther Burden III at Missouri.
So for me, number 15 was Theo Weiss Jr. from Missouri. 14, Deion Burks from Oklahoma. 13, Tez Johnson from Oregon. 12, Trey Harris from Ole Miss. 11, J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA. 10, Tory Horton from Colorado State. 9, Evan Stewart, now at Oregon. 8, Isaiah Bond, now at Texas. 7, Juice Wells, now at Ole Miss. 6, got Xavier Restrepo from Miami. 5, Travis Hunter from Colorado. 4, Elic Ayomanor from Stanford. 3, Emeka Egbuka. 2, Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona. And finally, wide receiver 1, Luther Burden III from Missouri. We would love to hear from the good people. We knew the wide receiver episode was going to go long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it here. We know you got takes on the wide receiver class, so let's hear them. Whether it is ranking the wide receivers, little nuggets that you might have on particular players, whether you thought that we are way too high, way too low on a guy, whatever. Also, throw out some names of some guys that maybe we didn't mention in this podcast. There's a lot of guys that Connor watched that I need to get to over the next, couple of weeks and that I'll get to before the season starts. But if there's somebody else that we didn't get to, you guys mentioned it with Taj Brooks, with Texas Tech. You bullied me enough to go back and watch him. By the way, now he's in my top 8. You guys are welcome. That'll be reflected on the PFF rankings once those things come out. So let us know if there was a wide receiver that did not get mentioned here that you think should have, or at least that maybe you just want to know our thoughts of. Best way to do that, YouTube comments, youtube.com/@NFL Stock Exchange. If you were going to the channel, if you were listening to this channel, whether you were audio or video, we would love for you to hit subscribe. We're almost at 30,000 subscribers. It would mean a lot to continue to build this community and this family throughout the summer. We really enjoy this time of year because it's a little bit slower. It allows Connor and I to get a couple of extra days to dive into the comments and go back and forth with you guys. And it's always more fun when you continue to come back. Best way to do that is, of course, if you're subscribed to the channel. If you're audio only, you can hit us up at Tampa Bay Trey, at Connor J. Rogers on X, and also on Instagram. Connor, you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think you summed it up well. Obviously a long one today. It always is with the wide receivers. A lot of fun. Curious to know who we missed. And I'll say real quick, I did watch a couple that I did watch, just for those that are like, how is this guy not on here? I watched Ra Thomas on Georgia. I think he could have a big year. He just needs to actually be productive there. You had Xavier Restrepo on your list. Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech. And a couple more here. Ricky White from UNLV, smaller school product, who had a big season. And Ty Felton.
Real big season.
Ty Felton was the other Maryland receiver that I watched. Those guys didn't make my top 15, but I wanted to give them a little shout out of guys that I got some early eyes on in this process.
Only guy that I didn't mention that I watched was Julian Fleming, the former 5-star wide receiver from Ohio State. Now he's at Penn State. He's just kind of like he's got to play, man. I mean, he's just, you could tell he just has not played a lot of football because of the injuries. But he's a talented player. So I hope that we get a fully healthy season from him. So there we go, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening to the show. We'd love to hear your comments on all things wide receivers. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We will see you with the tight end episode coming up next week.